Today we need to talk about alleged fans bullying and then trying to ban Jungkook over how he dresses. And then we have Jungkook talking about why girls like to watch him sleep on the radio. And we need to get into BTS members almost getting kicked out. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Decide, hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab a dumpling, a taste filling mug merch, and let's go. We need to talk about BTS members almost getting kicked out. This definitely is a bit surprising, and we would never guess that this would actually happen to any BTS member. And fortunately it never did, but it almost did. So what happened? Well, some of you might know that BTS used to share a dorm before their debut. Just like a lot of artists' humble beginnings, they didn't have much, and their little dorm was only like 164 feet big, or like 50 meters. So that is absolutely tiny. That is literally the space of one bedroom for most apartments, and for New York, that's a luxury apartment. But of course, for 7 people, that's quite small and it's hard to breathe. The boys were literally on top of each other, and fortunately, it's something a lot of newer artists that are signed to HYBE probably won't have to experience, since HYBE has a lot more money. And I would even say the previous dorming situation may not have entirely been legal depending on the housing laws in Korea. So nowadays, a lot of the newer artists are definitely not being put through the same humble beginnings. Suga emphasized their journey in the beginning of his song Amadala, and you can see the journey that he highlighted in that video, which by the way I do react to on Patreon if you're interested in checking that out and reacting to it with us. I will link the Patreon in the description. We currently have a $1 tier with some limited spots, so if you're interested, I hope to see you there. But it was very cool for Suga to show us that, as that was a big part of BTS's beginning. And then Suga also talked about it a bit more on his talk show Suchitop, which he talked about how BTS members were almost evicted from their dorm because Big Hit at the time didn't have enough money to sustain the dorm. So Big Hit made the tough choice that they definitely wanted to keep BTS alive, but they knew that they could not afford some of the living expenses for BTS. So Big Hit advised BTS to go ahead and try and find alternative living situations. However, some of the boys really didn't have enough money either. Typically, labels won't tell artists about these issues because once an artist hears this, they're going to be feeling like the label is going to be unable to promote them properly and would much rather go to a bigger, more wealthier label. After all, especially nowadays, artists don't actually need a label. You can get a song to play on the radio after it goes viral on TikTok, and you're more than capable of finding investors and money from other sources to fund your career, if you've shown significant signs of success already. Nowadays, a label just serves as an easier and faster way to generate connections and to secure those bigger budgets. They're basically loans because you do have to pay it back, which is a lot of the reasons why labels are unappealing to artists nowadays. But the fact that BTS saw more benefit in sticking with the label rather than trying to hop onto another label or do whatever shows their character. And because they stuck with it in spite of the hard times, I think this is why the universe rewarded them so much success now. Fortunately, Big Hit was able to pull it together and they were able to not entirely get kicked out of their dorm. It's a really great story, and I'm so glad to hear that Suga decided to share it. Because of the group's actions many years ago, you now have members like Jung Kook really being able to take all that success and build off his own striving career. He was recently doing a lot of American promo, and he did recently an interview with Z100, Radio 1, and just a lot of big name radio stations. Before I hear why aren't the other members of BTS being pushed to these radio stations and why is it just Jungkook, let me explain how the industry works from my knowledge. Producers and who you work with on a track matters a lot on the success of the track. And I don't mean the clout that the name brings to the song or anything like that, but the amount of connections. Most people aren't aware that a lot of songs will simply win Grammys or even be considered for Grammy nominations simply due to the fact that the producer of the song has connections to the Grammys and can submit the song, meaning any Korean producer or producers that are not well established with connections in the US would never be able to open those opportunities for the artist. Radio and all that stuff is a similar way. They obviously look to see if the song is doing well before inviting the artist for an interview, and then the fact that Jungkook has so many American producers and even an American feature on his song, radio stations are more likely to welcome Jungkook into their station. Has nothing to do with talent, because if it was talent, all the artists course would get the same opportunities. It has everything to do with being with the cool kids. And if you're popular enough among the industry, and then of course it goes without saying you have to be famous. But being famous alone is not enough. It's another reason why Blackpink gets a lot of these opportunities, because their songs, songwriters, producers, and even people they hang out with all have American people associated with it. So before we continue, I do think Seven will have a Grammy nomination at the least and have a fair shot to win a Grammy. So this could potentially be eligible for the 2024 Grammy, which, by the way, that deadline has recently been pushed back. So if Jungkook releases a bunch more American songs for his solo album, he will have a good chance to have more solo songs submitted for consideration. Now, recently Jungkook was at Radio 1 and there was some backlash to his outfit. People saying it looks indecent and many different comments were going around. It was believed that Jungkook borrowed the jeans that are seen in his appearance on the show from Jimin, because Jimin wore those jeans at an airport appearance. People were saying how the blazer and jeans do not match and look bad. And others were saying that ARMYs were being big bullies because Jungkook looks fine. However, airport clothes are rarely ever the idol's personal clothes. Sometimes, but most of the time, the airport is treated as a runway for the K-pop idol. So the clothes are either gifted to them by the brand, or if they're not representing a brand, the outfits are picked out by a stylist. So yeah, Jungkook would have the same stylist as Jimin because they're on the same label. So clothes will be reused and overlapped. I really don't think this is a big deal. And since when did people make fun of how men dress? Like, women should have never been mocked for how they dress, but unfortunately it happens all the time. When did it shift to men as well? So instead of not mocking both genders, we now mock both genders. That was not how it was supposed to happen. It made me a bit nervous to hear that Jungkook was doing all these English interview radio stations, because I'm wondering if he would have had a hard time with it. If you're someone who has ever been with an international friend and you go with that friend to a foreign country where you don't speak the language, you'll quickly notice how exhausting it is to have a translator answer everything. And that's fine for the first few interviews, but eventually it would be exhausting, and then hopefully it doesn't show on Jungkook's face. Before the interview Jungkook did with Z100, the host asked Jungkook about him sleeping on a live stream and why so many girls around the world like to watch him sleep. The host mentioned that at the time when Jungkook went live on Weverse and fell asleep, there were 6 million people watching. Of course, they wanted to get Jungkook's answer to see if he knew about it, and then also ask him why he thought everyone was watching Jungkook. Jungkook responded to say it's because it was unusual, and he felt that that was why. And then another reason he felt was because it broke down the invisible wall that an artist has with their fans. So my interpretation of this is that it puts everyone on a level playing field. When you put someone up so much on a pedestal and then see them sleep, all those feelings of like, oh, this person's better than me or whatever, it all goes away, because you see that they do the exact same thing at the end of the day that you do, and they're just as vulnerable as you. With, of course, 6 million people watching, each person has their own reason as to why they're watching. You might even have 1 million people grouped together with all the same reason, and then another million with a different reason, and then etc. Rarely do things go this super viral without several reasons why. It's never just one reason. Jungkook said that he saw the many girls posting videos of him sleeping and the memes that came out of it, and I think this is absolutely hilarious. I cannot believe that Jungkook has been online and saw all the posts, and he must think how weird something so small got so big. To me, it wasn't anything weird or unconventional, and I think Jungkook felt the same. It's just that he had to put himself into other people's shoes to understand why they would think it's weird. He mentions the thing about breaking down walls, and this is exactly what this genre that he is referring to is for. There's a whole genre of eating shows or mukbangs and study with me videos, and a lot of these videos get millions of views with literally no one talking, just 5 hours of someone sitting in a chair studying. This is not something that Jungkook invented, and so I think to some extent he might have been surprised at how big that got when he thought this was something that naturally would be done during a live stream. Or maybe that's just my opinion and he actually doesn't feel this way, who knows. Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks, just leave a comment right here. Love you, bye.